Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about an update in terms of shaping with a straight shaper. If you haven't watched my shaping videos, I suggest to go back and watch those first. I have two, one with a fold over shaper and one with a straight shaper. And in today's episode I'm going to be talking about how to modify the shaper in order to be able to accommodate gouged and profiled cane. The reason being that when we shape gouged and profiled cane, we don't have consistent contact to the shaping tool itself across the entire length of the profile, which can create damage in the blade. So for example, I'll show you a piece which is very poorly shaped, and that's because it was already profiled. And I put it into the shaper and you can see that it's quite uneven along the right side here. And that's because the cane was vibrating as I was cutting it along the shape. I'll just tell you what we need to accomplish today's episode, and that is I have a straight shaper here, unmodified, which is in this case a Fox K, but it could be any shaper. Like this. Of course, with the Reeds and Stuff brand, you have these silicone tips that are already inserted when you buy the new shapers, and that's essentially what we're trying to recreate on any other kind of shaper, which doesn't have those silicone tips. We also have Scotch tape. This is really going to be our useful tool here. I have a lot of X-Acto blades. And I have some gouged and profiled cane here, which is just coming out of my reject pile. So if you see these pieces of cane and you see a defect in them later in the episode, and you complain, Andrew must be using defective cane, well, that's because it is defective, and I am not going to deliver this, make reeds from this material. So what we're going to do first is I'm just going to show you exactly what I mean when I say the space between. So you can pretty much see that under the profiled area, you don't have constant contact from the top part down. So all along the bottom, there's contact, but as the profile goes towards the center of the reed, we lose contact with the top part. And what we need is to avoid the wood from vibrating in order to be able to secure the cane properly into the shaper. So all we're going to do is we're going to take a lot of Scotch tape and we're going to fill up this part, this top part, so that it will end up putting pressure, downward pressure on the cane to suspend it properly in the shaper. So we're going to do that by unscrewing the shaper. Watch out, sometimes the springs are loose and will fly away. But in this case, they are not. So it's fine. And all we're going to do is, we don't need to be particularly careful about this stage. We just need to make sure that when we put the Scotch tape down, it makes even contact with the inside of the curvature of this side of the shaper. So this is all we're doing here. We're just taking tape like this, and we're going to do this many, many times. We're going to do this all like, I don't know, 10, 15 times. I don't actually know the thickness of a, oh no, I did it wrong. Okay, I think this is 10 times. And this has created quite a, I can feel that it's quite thick now here. Now, we're going to put this back together. And the way that we're going to So you can see now that the tape is just sticking out the side, and all we have to do is shape the tape away like we would shape cane away. So it's important that we have a very sharp X-Acto knife at this point. Ow. Yeah. And we don't have to be we don't have to treat this exactly like it was a reed. But it cuts away very easily with an X-Acto knife. And you can see now that we have some tape that's kind of permanently fixed in the shaper, which takes the shape of, of the template. And the question is just, is this enough tape to actually make contact with the center of the profile in the shaper? And if I look closely, it does. So that was about 10 pieces. On one side it doesn't, but on the other side it does. So I don't know if this is going to be able to focus, but you could just see there's an air gap on that side. And so we're just going to do the same process. We're going to add a bit more tape. I would say maybe 4 pieces. And we're going to do the same thing. Now, obviously, you don't want to do this every time. You don't want to be switching very frequently with the same shaper between gouged and profiled and simply gouged cane. So it can be really annoying to do this process. I mean, if you have the number of pieces of tape, if you basically keep that in mind, if it takes 15 pieces of tape, then you know to do it the next time. But I would say that it's much more useful if you're kind of saying this shaper is for gouged and profiled cane, and then you've set it up in a sort of permanent way. That way, then it's less of a frustrating experience. Okay, so now I can really feel, and you can see it, like when I close the shaper, you can see that the edges are almost touching and the center is quite exposed, which means that if we put a piece of gouged and profiled cane in, yeah, both sides are making contact. So now we have a piece of cane which is properly suspended into the shaper. So I'm just going to put that a little closer, which is great. Now, there's a sort of an update for you. As you know, I make a lot of reeds. I'm producing about 2,500 reeds a year, and sometimes I get into a habit which is a bad habit. But one habit which I think is a good habit around shaping has been to suspend the shaper against the table. So I'm putting forward pressure up against the table like so. And while at the same time, when I'm shaping back towards myself so that I can keep in control. I have more stability with the shaper as it is in this position than simply freehanding the shaping process. I find the freehanding process, if I'm holding it like this, completely unsecured, that it creates an increased likelihood that if for some reason there's a jolt or something, or I reach suddenly a point after the collar where the cane splits away, then it becomes even more of a risk that I accidentally bring the blade further towards me and maybe cut myself in the process. Whereas if I'm fully stable, then really I'm completely aware of the pressures and the tension within the cane if I'm feeling it with the blade. And so I can tell as I'm cutting back here. I really would like this to focus on the shaper and not my hand. So I can tell when I'm cutting, okay, I touched I'm meeting the collar. You know, like once I arrive at the collar, which is here, the cane has more, creates more resistance because there's suddenly more cane there. And now if I push just a little bit further, now I'm through. But I'm not worried about having that and also on my left hand sort of moving around at all. So I think it's really quite important, I find now, to remain stable against the table. Another thing that I'd like to say that I see, and I know, I mean, I see this in real life, of course, when I go to bassoon days or reed makings and master classes or whatever, but also I see this online, and it's not just the freehanding, but it's the box cutter. And I don't know why people have this thing about the box cutter. I know that people see that the box cutter blade has these many different lengths, these little things that you can chip off, but nobody chips them off. A box cutter is only good, you know, that little bit of blade is only good for one go, for one reed, and they're not cheap, those blades, in comparison with what I have here, which are X-Acto blades. I mean, I think I spent 50 Swiss francs in getting a case of X-Acto blades from AliExpress. Of course, I had to wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get them from China, but I mean, there's 1,000 in here, or there were when I first got it. In any case, X-Acto knives are cheaper, and you should be using them regularly. So the next kind of rookie move that I see a lot, and this is super dangerous, especially on a shaper like the Hertzberg shape, or on the Knochenauer shape like this one or a Knochenauer shape, I should say, like the Fox K. But especially you see this on Hertzberg and on the Rieger 1A, because there is a curve back outwards in the tube. So they don't come down and then are straight and parallel along the tube. And so what that means is that you have to be very, very careful not to shape entirely in one direction all the way to the butt end, because then you'll lose cane at the bottom, especially if the fibers are not 100% straight. And to be honest, most pieces of cane are not going to, I mean, no matter how hard you work at selecting them, are not going to be 100%, let's say, straight all the way down the length of the cane. And so often often you get a pretty solid length of 100 millimeters or so, which are straight, and then it curves off a little bit off of one of the axes in those last 10 millimeters on either side of the piece of cane. And this one I can tell already you can see that it's curving back inwards towards the shaper on this particular piece of cane. You can almost see it, but it's just right at the bit at the back end. And so if I were to now try and cut simply along the shape, absolutely along the shape, then I would lose some of that cane it would tear off inwards inside. And it really matters to the shape of the tip opening of the reed that we have mirror image butt ends. Otherwise, the tip will be somehow distorted, and we want to avoid that. And so it's so important that when you have roughly this amount of cane left, maybe I could just take just a little bit more, which I'll just show you. So I took just a little bit more, but not too much. But we have a little bit of cane left at the butt end. That's when we cut back to where we think is the narrowest point. And so I've now cut back, and then finally, and I'm going to freehand it so that it's in the no, I can't. Sorry, it's hard to film yourself reed making. And then one of the beauties of having this against the table is that you can easily finish it in the other direction. And so now I know that the cane is exactly following the template. Now, one of the problems with straight shaping is you have to do this 4 times perfectly. And so what you can see is that I do take quite a bit off. And then before cutting back towards the narrowest point. And that's it. That was the side I just did up here. Go again. And so, okay, so here's a good situation to come up to. So you can see the blade has gotten really close to the template now, and I've reached the collar, and I've gotten enough back pressure to stop the blade. And now I think because of the amount that the cane curves back out, I think I'm actually going to commit the sin of cutting too much away, and then I'll lose the back corner of the template. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do the absolute safe thing, and I'm going to stop shaping. I'm going to pull the knife out, and I'm going to cut away some of the cane at the tube, and then I'm going to cut back towards the center in the opposite direction. The reason I'm going to shave away the cane from the tube is that the more material that's left on the outside, the moment that you cut that away, the greater pressure there will be for the cane to split off. And therefore, if you have only a little bit of cane back here, only a little bit would be left, then when you split it open, you have more flexibility to cut the way that you intend to. Otherwise, if I were to just cut here, it might split really too far up the cane. So up the tube rather. So I'm going to go like this. And I'm sort of just carving here. And so now you can see that I can cut away, and there's no cane has like split off. It's just only where my knife is touched. Aha. And now I have the problem and now it's all come off, and I don't know. No, it's fine. Everything's fine. I think it's fine. There's an interesting little, there's the tiniest of little knots there. I don't know if that's visible on the camera. Maybe not. I don't think it will affect the reed, but you can tell that I created you could see how when that split, it was a sort of dangerous situation for the reed. I'm just going to finish. There. It doesn't have to be a long process. I'm taking a long time to explain things to you, but it can go quite quickly. It looks fine. It looks fine. And there you have it. And you can see, so all that really matters in the shaping process is that the line underneath here is perfectly straight and smooth. It doesn't matter so much what's going on the outside, although that will be just as smooth too. What matters is that there's a seal here that will not be broken. The reed, when the reed vibrates, only the tip is vibrating, the aperture itself. The side edges of the reed are always closed. And so it's important that we aid the sides to be closed by making sure that the shape is perfectly cut. And you can see that on this piece of cane. And if I had not put the tape into the shaper, then especially the area around the very tip would be quite jagged and unable to create a reed which would be usable. So I think that is a good update for you. I think I can't emphasize enough that you should be using a new X-Acto blade for every piece of cane that you're shaping. Don't forget to be shaping the cane when it's dry, so that when the cane is, the size of the cane is not affected by the expansion and contraction of the fibers when it's saturated. So you're always going to get the same size reed every time if you're shaping dry. So I hope that this video was helpful to you. Thanks very much for watching. If you like these videos and want to help support my channel, then don't forget to buy a reed at bassoons.ch. Thanks for watching, take it easy, and bye for now.